What if the greatest heresy is not spoken, but whispered in silence? What if, in a galaxy built on obedience, the most dangerous act a man can commit is simply to stop? They say the Imperium was forged in blood, held together by faith, and sustained only by the bones of those who never questioned their orders. But somewhere among the endless ranks of soldiers pressed into war since birth, there's always one who falters, one who hesitates, one who asks the question that should never be asked: why? And when that question is born, the galaxy seems to hold its breath. The soldier's name was not recorded in any official archive. In the administratum, he was a number, a serial code stamped into a data slate, no more meaningful than a candle flicker in the cathedrals of Terra. Yet on the trenches of Varkos 7, where the sky hung low and rust-red from constant bombardment, he became something else: a symbol, a problem, a warning. He was a guardsman of the 812th Varkian line, a regiment so depleted that their company banners hung in tatters, stiff with dried blood and planetary dust. For 3 months they had fought under the shadow of Xeno's war engines that prowled the horizon like metal beasts. But on the 4th month, when the order came to charge again into the ruins, one man stayed still. He did not raise his lascan. He did not adjust the cracked lenses of his helmet. He simply stopped, boots rooted in mud thick with ash and bone fragments. Around him, the regiment surged forward in a roar of fear and desperation, their prayers dissolving into screams. But the soldier remained, breath shallow, heart hammering in a slow, disobedient rhythm. A commissar noticed. They always notice. Commissars are trained to sense hesitation, the way predators taste blood in the air. He approached with the calm inevitability of a closing tomb door. But the soldier did not kneel, did not beg, did not offer an excuse. Silence became his final defense, and in the Imperium, silence is treason. They dragged him from the trenches as night fell on Varkos the 7th. The moons glowed pale and diseased, their light bending through smoke and orbital debris. The prisoner was taken to a field hab, its walls blistered by heat and shrapnel, where interrogators awaited with parchment-thin patience. They asked him if he feared death. They asked if he doubted the Emperor. They asked if he had heard the whispers of Xeno's lies or tasted the corruption of the warp. He answered none of these. Instead, he uttered only one sentence, unremarkable, quiet, fragile as a dying ember: "I am tired of killing people I've never met." The interrogators exchanged glances. The commissar's expression did not change. For such a statement, no lecture was needed. In the Imperium, fatigue is weakness, reflection is danger, and empathy is treason. But before the execution could be carried out, something unexpected occurred. An orbital tremor shook the ground, rattling the cracked lights in the hab ceiling. The walls groaned. Dust sifted from the roof like shed skin. Outside, klaxons wailed. The enemy, a Xeno's host whose name the guardsmen never learned, had unleashed their final assault. War engines roared across the wasteland. Void dark shadows swept across the hills. The Imperium's defensive lines faltered. And so the commissar, grim-faced and practical, ordered the prisoner marched out, not for mercy, but for utility. Even a condemned man could hold a gun. Even a traitor could bleed buying time. They shoved a lascan into his hands and pointed him toward the oncoming storm. "Die with purpose," the commissar commanded. But the soldier only stared at the weapon, as though it were some ancient relic of a religion he no longer believed in. The battlefield became a furnace of screams and metal. Artillery bursts split the darkness like false suns. Soot rained from above. The ground cracked open under the weight of alien machinery. The prisoner soldier found himself swept into a tide of bodies, the regiment collapsing and reforming like a broken wave. Around him, men shouted praises to the Emperor with the desperation of drowning souls. Others begged for forgiveness. Some simply wept, and still he hesitated. Not out of fear, but out of a dreadful clarity. He had seen enough killing, enough burning, enough faces twisted in terror. His refusal to fight did not come from cowardice. It came from a truth he could no longer escape, that every life taken carved another wound into a galaxy already bleeding. Yet fate is cruel in its irony. For while he refused to fire, the war found him anyway. A blast hurled him into the rubble of a collapsed shrine where once saints had been carved into stone. Now those statues lay broken, halos cracked, wings shattered. He crawled among the debris, ears ringing, vision blurred, until he found himself staring at a mural half buried in dust. It depicted a warrior kneeling before the emperor, offering his life and soul. The paint was peeling, the message faded. But the soldier saw something different, something unspoken. The eyes of the painted warrior were hollow, almost pleading, as though even in the holy imagery, a truth lingered, that obedience without thought is not devotion, but extinction. Moments later, another tremor split the sky. A thunderous shape descended, black armor, hulking frame, the unmistakable silhouette of an Astartes. A space marine of the Black Templars, his armor scoured by battle, yet still glistening like obsidian. The ground trembled as he approached. Guardsmen bowed instinctively, voices trembling with reverence. But the prisoner stayed still, dazed in the rubble. The marine's visor locked onto him. There was no judgment, no pity, only cold assessment. "Why does this one not carry his weapon?" the giant asked. The commissar stepped forward with rigid certainty. He refused to fight. The space marine regarded the soldier for a long, heavy moment. His reply came not with fury, but with a silence almost accusatory. Then, without warning, he lifted the prisoner to his feet with a single armored hand. The Astartes dragged him through the battlefield, not toward execution, but toward something else, something deeper within the ruins. They entered a shattered manufactorum where the air was thick with the scent of oil and death. The marine pushed him toward a darkened chamber lit only by flickering red lumen strips. Inside lay relics unrecognizable to the untrained, eye-broken purity seals, fragments of destroyed servitors, a shattered aquila once set above a command throne. The marine said nothing as he held the soldier in that sacred ruin. Then, at last, his voice rumbled like distant thunder. "Even the weak have their purpose." It was not reassurance, it was warning. The Imperium did not need the soldier to understand. It needed him to comply. But something else stirred within that chamber, something neither marine nor commissar could sense. A faint, rhythmic pulse emanated from beneath the wreckage. A glow, soft and sickly, throbbed like a heartbeat. The soldier, still trembling, felt drawn to it. His hand brushed aside twisted metal. There, buried in dust and broken circuitry, lay a small, humming device. Not imperial, not human. Its surface was smooth, seamless, alive with alien energy. The marine turned sharply, weapon raised, but before he could act, the glow pulsed again, brighter, almost aware. The soldier froze as whispers brushed the edges of his mind. Not words, not thoughts, just presence. And in that moment, the soldier understood something terrible. His refusal had not been born of fatigue alone. Something had been calling to him, watching him, waiting for him. The war outside, the interrogation, the hesitation, it all felt like steps toward this single discovery. A truth buried beneath sanctified ruins. A secret that should never have been found by mortal eyes. The pulse grew stronger. The Astartes stepped forward. The commissar reached for his bolt pistol. The soldier felt the ground shudder beneath his feet, as though the planet itself recoiled. And then, the device opened. A sound like a breath, like a dying star exhaling. A whisper that did not belong to this galaxy. The space marine lunged. The chamber lights blew out. And on the last flicker of red illumination, the soldier saw something inside that device, something shifting, something impossibly ancient, turn its gaze toward him. Everything went dark. Darkness swallowed the chamber, thick as burial shrouds. For a moment the world was nothing but the echo of ruptured lumens and the faint, unnatural hum of the alien device. The prisoner felt weightless, suspended between heartbeat and oblivion. Then a spark detonated in the gloom, tiny, white, insect-like, and illuminated the Space Marine's silhouette as he hurled himself toward the glow. The commissar shouted something sharp and terrified, his bolt pistol clattering out a single round that punched a cone of light through the dark. The soldier did not move. He felt the pulse within the device synchronize with his own heart, thrumming in a rhythm older than mankind's first prayer. And for an instant, he thought he heard a voice, a thought pressed gently against the edges of his soul. Not a command, not a temptation. A question, one that pierced deeper than any blade. Why do you obey what you do not understand? When the lights snapped back to life, flickering like dying embers, the chamber was transformed. The Marine stood motionless, gaunted fist frozen inches from the artifact. The commissar had fallen to one knee, clutching his head as though invisible talons had scraped across his skull. The soldier alone remained calm, breath slow, eyes unfocused with a strange clarity. The device lay open now, its inner surface rippling like liquid glass, reflecting distorted visions, shattered cities, burning stars, figures kneeling in despair beneath colossal shadows. The Astartes recovered first, snarling a litany of hate, and slammed his armored fist downward. But the artifact did not shatter. It simply absorbed the blow, rippling once before returning to stillness. For the first time in centuries of war, the Marine hesitated. And in that hesitation lay fear. Outside, the hive city burned. Enemy war crawlers tore through fortress walls while the remains of the 812th Varkian line fought in blind desperation. Vox chatter crackled with half-finished prayers, screams drowned by static, commanders issuing orders already impossible to obey. In the upper spires, a lone confessor watched the sky split open as orbital fire rained down. He clutched his rosarius in trembling hands, whispering scripture through broken teeth. Faith is our armor. Faith is our breath. Yet even he felt something shift in the warp around him, a subtle tilt in the balance of devotion and doubt. Reports streamed through of soldiers dropping their arms, not in rebellion but in absolute terror. Some claimed they felt the Emperor withdraw from them, as though a candle had been snuffed out. Others dreamed of a cold light rising beneath the ruins. The confessor's heart thundered. He had heard prophecies of such things. None ended well. Back in the Manufactorum's depths, the Marine seized the soldier by the collar, lifting him effortlessly off the ground. "What did it show you?" he demanded. The words were not shouted. They resonated like the toll of a bell. The soldier struggled to answer, not out of fear, but because the truth felt too fragile to speak aloud. "It showed nothing," he finally whispered. "It asked me why we bleed for causes we do not question." The commissar staggered to his feet, eyes bloodshot, voice ragged with fury. "That is Zeno's corruption. Doubt is the weapon of the heretic, nothing more." But as he spoke, the device pulsed again, brighter this time, casting the walls in a pale, mournful light. Symbols flowed across its surface, shifting like migrating script. The Marine turned his gaze toward the artifact, then toward the soldier. And something unspoken passed between them, the awareness that whatever this thing was, it had chosen its witness. A tremor shook the Manufactorum as enemy artillery struck the eastern wing. Steel beams collapsed in a cascade of sparks. Dust burst from the ceiling in choking clouds. The Marine reacted instantly, dragging both commissar and prisoner behind a fallen bulkhead. The device rolled, humming softly as though amused by the chaos. When the tremors subsided, distant booms reverberated through the ruins, too rhythmic to be random bombardment. The soldier recognized the sound before the others, chanting. Dozens of voices rising in eerie unison, neither human nor musical. They echoed from beneath the floor, from deeper in the earth. The Marine's grip tightened on his weapon. The commissar paled. The soldiers simply listened, feeling the chant vibrate in his bones. Something was moving below them, something ancient, something awakening. The Black Templar activated his helm vox, demanding immediate reinforcements, but all he received was static and the faint hiss of disrupted frequencies. The commissar attempted his own transmission, same result. The soldier stepped toward the artifact, compelled by instinct he did not understand, but the Marine blocked him with a raised hand. "Do not touch it," he warned. "Its purpose is unknown." The soldier met the Marine's gaze, and for the first time did not feel like an ant beneath a giant's boot. "Maybe that's the point," he replied. "Maybe we've been blind by design." The commissar drew his pistol with trembling fingers, leveling it squarely at the prisoner's skull. "Enough," his voice cracked like splitting metal. "This ends now. I'll not allow a heretic to speak blasphemy in my presence." But before he could pull the trigger, the chanting beneath them grew louder, closer, hungry. The floor split. A fissure tore through the manufactorum, belching steam and dust. The soldiers staggered. The commissar stumbled backward. From the crack rose not Zeno's horrors, but light. Pure, cold, and unyielding. It spilled upward in spiraling tendrils, coiling around machinery and bone fragments. For a brief, impossible instant, the soldier thought the light looked familiar, like something from an old dream half remembered. The Marine shielded his eyes, helm autofilters flickering in confusion. The commissar dropped his weapon entirely, overcome by awe or terror, perhaps both. As the light thickened, it formed shapes, outlines, figures, tall, slender beings of shimmering radiance, their limbs elongated, their eyes empty hollows of white fire. They did not walk. They simply existed, pulled upward like ghosts from the planet's forgotten past. The soldier felt his knees weaken. The Marine whispered a single word, barely audible: abominations. The radiant figures hovered above the fissure, studying the three mortals with unreadable intent. Their presence warped the air, distorting sound and reality like heat on a desert horizon. One turned its hollow gaze toward the artifact, and the device responded instantly, pulsing in cadence, echoing their light. The Marine braced for combat, bolter raised, but the beings made no hostile move. Instead, they tilted their heads in eerie synchrony, as though curious. The soldiers stepped forward, drawn by an invisible thread. "Have you seen them before?" he asked softly. The Marine shook his head, uncertain for the first time in his life. "They are not Eldar," he muttered. "Nor any Xenos our records describe." The commissar clutched a broken Aquila charm to his chest, whispering fevered prayers. But the light beings ignored him. Their focus was singular, centered on the soldier. A voice entered the soldier's mind, not a whisper this time, but a gentle resonance, like a fingertip brushed across crystal. "Choice." The word echoed through his thoughts. "All things begin with choice." He stumbled, overwhelmed by the sudden clarity the voice carried. Images flashed behind his eyes. A galaxy in flames, imperial worlds strangled by fanaticism, children born only to die in wars they never understood. The radiant figures showed him soldiers kneeling before golden statues, oblivious to the chains placed upon their souls. They showed him a future where obedience crushed entire civilizations before they could dream of standing. And then softly, they showed him an alternative, a path so fragile it trembled like a dying ember. A path where one refusal could become a spark could become a flame, and a flame could ignite a revolution. The Marine sensed the shift and stepped between the soldier and the beings, blocking the visions with his massive form. "You will not take him," he growled. "He belongs to the Emperor." The beings dimmed, their forms flickering with agitation. The Marine's warning did not frighten them, it barely registered. They drifted closer, passing through debris without disturbing it, their presence bending the world like a gravity well. The soldier raised a trembling hand. "Wait," he whispered, though he did not know to whom he spoke. The light around the beings intensified until the chamber vibrated with raw energy. And then, without warning, the fissure snapped shut. The light vanished. The beings disappeared. Silence crashed down like a tomb. But the artifact remained. It pulsed once more, slow, deliberate, then projected a single image into the air. A sigil, complex, perfect, terrifying. The Marine froze. The commissar fell to his knees, screaming. The soldier felt the blood drain from his face. The sigil belonged not to Xenos, nor to traitors, nor to any archive known to the Imperium. It was the emblem of a forgotten Imperial project, one erased from history, sealed by the Sigillite himself. A plan abandoned because it carried a truth too dangerous to survive. The artifact was not alien. It was human. And the moment that realization settled, the planetary VoxNet, dead for hours, suddenly roared to life with a transmission that chilled the entire world. Varkos VII is lost. All loyal personnel are ordered to withdraw, by command of the Sector High Lords. The planet is to be cleansed. The order for exterminatus had been given. The order struck the chamber like a physical blow. Exterminatus, a sentence older than most civilizations, spoken only when hope itself had become treason. The commissar slumped against the fractured wall, muttering scripture through lips gone bloodless. The Marine stood rigid, absorbing the weight of the command with the grim serenity of one long accustomed to planetary death. But the soldier felt the world tilt beneath him, not from fear but from the sudden hollow clarity that came with the artifact's revelation. If the device was human, if it belonged to a forgotten strain of Imperial truth, then why was its rediscovery answered with annihilation? A low tremor rippled through the manufactorum as orbital engines stirred above the clouds. The air thickened with metallic dread. And in that suffocating stillness, the artifact pulsed once, as though listening, as though waiting for the galaxy's next breath. The first bombardment did not come as fire but as silence. Every Vox channel went dead, every lumen dimmed. Even the distant screams of the battlefield seemed to vanish, swallowed by a great, unseen maw. The Marine removed his helmet, eyes narrowing in instinctive suspicion. "This is not standard protocol," he growled. The commissar clawed at his rosarius, whispering, "The Emperor's wrath comes as shadow before flame." But the soldier heard something else within that unnatural quiet, a faint rhythm, like distant drums beating beneath the planet's crust. Memories flickered unbidden, the light beings rising, the visions, the sigil carved in forgotten human geometry. It felt as though the planet itself were remembering something long buried. Above them, a dull vibration quivered through the air, metal shifting upon metal. Then a deep groan rolled across the hive, too vast to belong to any machine of mortal design. Outside, the sky fractured, not with fire, but with light that poured through the clouds in jagged spears. At first, the guardsmen in the trenches mistook it for the opening barrage of extermination. They knelt, clutching icons, tears streaking their ash-caked faces. But then they realized the light was not descending, it was rising. Great columns of white flame erupted from the ground miles away, tearing open the streets, toppling hab blocks, vaporizing entire platoons in an instant. The soldier and the others staggered as earthquakes rippled across the manufactorum. The Marine swore an oath in a language older than High Gothic. "Planetary engines," he muttered, "but these patterns, these vectors, they are not ours." The commissar shook his head violently. "Warp sorcery, Xenos deception." Yet his voice quivered, cracking at the edges, betraying a truth he refused to speak aloud. Nothing about this felt like Xenos craft. Nothing felt alien at all. The Marine gripped the soldier's shoulder. "You said it questioned you. What did it seek?" His tone held no accusation, only urgency. "Choice," the soldier whispered, recalling the vision's echo. "It asked why we obey what we do not understand." The Marine's expression hardened. "Then it is heresy. And heresy spreads like flame." But even as he said it, doubt flickered in his war-forged eyes. The artifact glowed softly, projecting faint, translucent patterns across the ruined floor schematics, diagrams, star charts that twisted and reformed like living equations. The Marine recognized none of them. The commissar recognized too much. "These symbols. I've seen echoes in sealed archives," he rasped. marks of ancient research forbidden by decree. Technologies deemed too dangerous for human thought. He stared at the soldier as though seeing him for the first time. They wiped this knowledge from history for a reason. The ground shook as a new tremor tore through the chamber. A fissure opened at the far wall, splitting machinery like brittle bone. From the crack seeped a dim glow, not radiant like before, but deep, bruised purple, the color of a dying star. The Marine raised his bolter. The Commissar shrieked a prayer. The soldier stepped back instinctively as whispers crawled along the edge of his hearing, not the clear resonance of the light beings. This was something heavier, older, a language carved in the marrow of dying worlds. The Marine fired a round into the fissure. The bolt vanished as though swallowed by water. Then, slowly, a shape emerged, mechanical, skeletal, impossibly humanoid, yet twisted beyond biological symmetry. Its joints clicked softly as it pulled itself into the broken light, but it did not attack. It simply stood, head tilting, as though listening to the artifact's pulse. Outside, the war shifted. Guardsmen who had been charging moments earlier now froze mid-step as the air shimmered with temporal disturbances. Entire squads blinked out of existence, replaced by blurred afterimages of themselves seconds out of sync. Tanks rolled forward only to dissolve into dust-like motes, as if aged 10,000 years in an instant. The sky twisted into impossible spirals. Something was rewriting reality in fragments. And at the center of that cosmic unraveling stood the artifact, calm, steady, pulsing in measured rhythm. The soldier felt heat rise behind his eyes. Visions blossomed again, sharper this time. He saw a room of robed figures bent over luminous machines. He saw the Sigillite placing a seal upon a vault door. He saw soldiers like him, ordinary, frightened, used as conduits for something vast and terrible. A project named only in echoes, the Parallax Directive. The Marine felt the shift in the prisoner's posture. "What do you see?" he demanded. The soldier's voice cracked as he spoke. "We were never meant to fight the Xenos," he murmured. "We were meant to fight ourselves. To keep humanity blind to what we once were." The Commissar howled, "Lies, delusions," and lunged forward, striking the soldier across the face with his pistol. But the Marine stepped between them, absorbing the second blow meant for the prisoner. "Enough," his voice rumbled with finality. The Commissar staggered back, trembling, eyes wild. "You would protect a heretic?" The Marine did not answer. He simply stared at the artifact, as though seeing a future he wished he could unsee. The skeletal construct from the fissure extended a hand toward the artifact, and the device responded, unfurling like a metal flower, revealing intricate layers of humming core tech. The soldier felt a pull in his mind, a gravitational tug at the center of his thoughts. The room dimmed. The air cooled. The Marine braced himself, bolter raised, but did not fire. For he felt it too, the sense that something irreversible was about to happen. The construct tapped the artifact gently, as though awakening a sleeping child. And for the first time, the device projected sound clear, human, and impossibly ancient. A voice recorded in an age before the heresy. "To whomever uncovers this directive, the Emperor is not what you believe. The truth lies not in his divinity, but in what he feared most." The words tore through the chamber like a blade. The Commissar collapsed, screaming in denial. The Marine froze, eyes wide, jaw clenched in silent fury. The soldier felt tears crawl down his face, not of despair, but recognition. The voice continued, even as the chamber shook and the fissure widened. "If you are hearing this, the safeguards have failed. The Parallax Directive must not be enacted. Humanity cannot withstand the burden of its own origin. Destroy this artifact before." The message cut off, replaced by a shrill psychic cry that pierced the mind like ice. The Marine staggered. The Commissar fainted. The soldier remained standing, anchored by something deeper than resolve, a dreadful curiosity that refused to break. The construct stepped aside, the artifact flared, and the soldier saw everything. A vision so vast it nearly annihilated him. Humanity not as victims of the galaxy, but as its apex. A species once capable of bending reality without the warp, of creating light beings as guardians, of forging stars as tools. A species that had sealed away its own greatness because it led to ruin. The Emperor had not risen to godhood. He had taken the throne to prevent humanity from remembering what it once was. The soldier gasped. The Marine called his name. The Commissar awoke screaming. And the artifact whispered a final truth, soft as falling ash. What you refuse today will decide what humanity becomes tomorrow. The soldier's eyes glowed with reflected light. Something within him changed, something awakened, and the galaxy shuddered in response. The chamber reeled as though the world had turned inside out. Light bled from the artifact in trembling waves, washing over metal, rubble, and flesh alike. The soldier gasped, gripping the edge of a broken console to stay upright. But the vision's afterimage clung to him, vast cities made of living starlight, human minds shaping matter without fear, an empire that had once stretched across reality like a waking dream. And over it all, the sound of weeping, ancient, mournful, unending. The Marine watched him with wary calculation, seeing the change settle into the prisoner's eyes like a second soul awakening behind the first. The Commissar dragged himself upright, face streaked with blood and tears, whispering denials that sounded like someone trying to drown under their own faith. Outside, the world quaked under the beginning of planetary death. But inside the chamber, something older than fear had taken root: choice. A siren wailed deep within the manufactorum, its pitch warped by structural collapse. The Marine stepped forward, cradling his bolter like a sacred oath. "Listen to me," he said, voice steady but strained. "Whatever you saw, it is a weapon. Knowledge meant to break you. The Emperor shields us from truths that would shatter the soul." The soldier shook his head, vision still flickering with impossible clarity. Then why did he hide our past? Why erase what humanity once was? The Marine's jaw clenched, but doubt flickered beneath the surface. "Because power breeds ruin," he answered, almost whispering. "Because we already died once from what we became." The Commissar lunged at the soldier with renewed fanaticism, pistol raised, but the Marine intercepted him with an armored backhand that sent him sprawling. The blow echoed through the ruins like a funeral bell. Above them, the orbital engines roared. A deep, thunderous vibration shivered across the sky, rattling the metal bones of the hive. The first firestorm of exterminatus struck the upper atmosphere, an immense shockwave of incandescent fury. But instead of descending cleanly, the blast veered, twisting unnaturally, bending as though repelled. The soldier felt the shift in the air, a wave of psychic distortion rippling outward from the ground itself. The artifact brightened, casting shadows that bucked and twitched like living things. The construct near the fissure clicked its elongated head and stepped back, its inner mechanisms humming in agitation. "Something is resisting the extermination," the Marine murmured. "Something is interfering," the Commissar shrieked, the warp, heresy taking root. But even his hysteria could not explain the unnatural divergence of the cleansing fire. The planet was not dying as it should. The ground heaved beneath their feet. Pipes ruptured, spraying superheated steam. Support beams gave way, crashing down in avalanches of metal and sparks. The Marine grabbed the soldier and hurled him clear of a collapsing walkway, just as it thundered into the fissure below. The Commissar scrambled behind them, clutching his Rosarius so tightly the metal cut into his palms. Through the collapsing dust and chaos, the artifact remained untouched, floating, spinning slowly, light blooming across its surface like the petals of a mechanical flower. The soldier felt its presence in his bloodstream, in the beat of his heart, calm, serene, almost sorrowful, as if it knew what must happen next and mourned it. The Marine reached out, trying to pull the artifact from the air, but it drifted from his grasp like a thought lost in a nightmare. "It's active," he growled. "And it's not done." A sudden wave of heat surged through the chamber. The walls glowed red, warping under impossible pressure. The soldier staggered backward as voices filled his mind again, not words, but impressions, echoes of a humanity that had once been capable of listening to the universe instead of conquering it. He felt awe, sorrow, longing, and then a single sharp thread of warning. The artifact pulsed violently, projecting a flickering hologram into the dusty air. The image showed Varkos 7 from orbit, surrounded not by the flame of exterminatus, but by a lattice of shimmering white arcs that formed a protective shell. The Marine's eyes widened. A barrier, he breathed, but built by whom? The soldier felt the answer without needing to think. By us, he whispered. The commissar screamed that this was impossible, but no one listened. The reality was already claiming them. Humanity had once wielded this power. The Manufactorum groaned as a second orbital blast collided with the invisible barrier. The shockwave rippled across the planet, warping gravity, bending sound into unrecognizable howls. The Marine fell to one knee, helm filters struggling. The commissar convulsed on the ground, head splitting with psychic feedback. The soldier alone stood firm, anchored by the artifact's steady pulse syncing with his heartbeat. His mind swam with visions of ancient councils, of warnings carved into impossible machines, of the Emperor speaking in a voice weary with prophecy. If humanity remembers what it once was, it will become again what it should never be. And yet, the visions also whispered of liberation, of hope carved from forgotten truth. The Marine sensed the soldier's resolve shifting and tried to rise, but gravity buckled around him like liquid iron. The fissure widened in a violent lurch. Machinery toppled. Energy surged upward in spirals of blue fire. The construct emitted a keening hum, retreating into the shadows. Something massive stirred below, something that had been dormant longer than any living memory. The soldier felt its awakening in his bones. It was not hostile. It was mourning. The Marine forced himself upright, roaring through clenched teeth. "You must destroy that thing," he bellowed over the cacophony. "If you activate it fully, you doom us all." But the soldier saw the truth in the artifact's light. This was not a weapon. It was a remembrance. A fragment of humanity's forbidden origin. And it was calling him to choose blind obedience to a dying empire, or clarity that could tear the Imperium apart. The Marine charged, intent on ripping the artifact out of the air by force, but the soldier stepped between them. His voice cracked, but did not break. If the Emperor feared this truth, then he feared what humanity could become, not what it was. The Marine halted, fury warring with understanding in his eyes. The commissar, barely conscious, reached for his pistol with trembling hands. The artifact drifted closer to the soldier, bathing him in soft argent light that made his skin appear translucent, as though something luminous stirred beneath. The Marine whispered in dread, "It's choosing you." The soldier shook his head. "No, it's remembering me." The fissure erupted behind them, spewing white flame that curled like the fingers of some forgotten god reaching up from the planet's core. The chamber collapsed around them in a storm of heat and shrapnel. The Marine shielded the others as rubble poured down like steel rain. The artifact rose higher, pulsing rapidly, light intensifying until shadows evaporated into nothing. The soldier felt his senses stretch outward beyond the hive, beyond the planet, brushing the edge of a truth so vast it felt like the galaxy breathing. He sensed fleets approaching, not of Xenos or traitors, but Imperial vessels carrying inquisitors, psychers, execution orders. He sensed the barrier on the planet faltering, cracking under the weight of ancient strain. And beneath the planet's surface, something immense stirred again, something built by human hands long before humanity forgot how. The soldier fell to his knees, overwhelmed. The Marine dragged him up, gripping him by the shoulders with the strength of a titan. "Listen to me," he growled, eyes burning. "Whatever choice you make next will damn or save billions. Do not mistake visions for truth." The soldier stared at him, trembling. What if the visions are truth? What if obedience is the lie? The Marine opened his mouth to reply, but the planet itself cut him off. A catastrophic shockwave split the horizon as the barrier shattered. Light poured upward in a roaring column that engulfed the sky, drowning out sound, thought, and prayer. In that blinding brilliance, the artifact whispered a final message into the soldier's mind, soft, intimate, devastating. This is not the end of humanity. This is where it begins again. And just as the firestorm struck the hive, time seemed to hesitate, an impossible heartbeat of stillness before everything changed forever. The ash was still falling when the world seemed to exhale its last breath, as if the very air had been holding itself in preparation for what came next. The battlefield no longer screamed. It whispered, smoldering with the heat of a million severed futures. Across the broken ridge, the remnants of the 117th knelt in silence before the shattered Aquila standard, its wings torn and blackened, its pole cracked but standing. Some prayed. Some only stared. And in the center of them all stood the soldier who had once refused to raise his weapon. The man whose name had become a curse, a hymn, and a question, all at once. The chaplain's pronouncement echoed in the tension-thick air. The traitor had spoken truth, and truth had reshaped the war. No one breathed as a new sound rose, distant but approaching. The rhythmic thunder of engines older than the Imperium itself. Shadows rolled over the horizon, cast by titanic silhouettes emerging from the smoke. God machines, wounded but walking, their armor cracked with molten seams where heretical sigils had been burned away. The surviving tech priests fell to their knees, chanting half-remembered litanies, as if worship could mask the terror blossoming in their hearts. The once refusing soldier felt something shift in his bones, an instinctual understanding that whatever strode toward them was not rescue, but judgment. A single Warhound Titan halted, its head lowering, Vox grills crackling alive with static like the growl of a dying star. And from within that metal cathedral, a voice boomed out, not with fury, but with sorrow. It spoke of oaths broken long before any mortal here was born, of secrets buried beneath the Imperial creed, of a choice the soldier had already made, long before he realized he had made it. The commanders tried to maintain formation, barking orders that dissolved into the void as the ground trembled beneath the Titan's weight. Yet something else began to move, something smaller, quieter, but infinitely more dangerous. The Psyker girl, the one liberated from the inquisitorial cages, stepped forward as if drawn by an invisible thread. Her eyes glowed with the embers of a waking storm, her breath shallow and trembling under the pressure of voices not entirely her own. The astropath beside her reached out, desperate to restrain her, but she only whispered a single phrase, "He is listening." And for a heartbeat, everyone felt it too, the presence, vast as the galaxy, cold as interstellar void. Not a demon, not the Emperor. Something older than both. The air tightened as the girl lifted her hands, and the sky itself seemed to fold inward. The ground split open in jagged lines as psychic force rippled out, tossing bodies, weapons, and debris into the air like leaves in a hurricane. The Titan stabilizers groaned. Vox channels erupted with panicked prayers. And in the center of it all stood the refusing soldier, rooted to the fractured earth, watching as unseen forces carved runes in the air around him, runes he somehow understood. They told the story of a lie carried for 10,000 years, a lie enforced by steel and flame, one that demanded absolute obedience because the truth behind it would break entire worlds. The chaplain staggered toward him, helm cracked, Crozius flickering with dying power. "Whatever you see," he growled through damaged Vox, "you will deny it. You must deny it. Faith is what keeps mankind breathing." But the soldier's gaze had already shifted to the sky, where another light was taking form. It was not warp flame, not sunlight. Something between them, pale, ghost-like, unfurling like a wound opening across the heavens. The Psyker girl screamed as the vision tore through her mind and spilled into everyone else's. They saw the Imperium's birth, cries worlds burning, fleets vanishing into the warp, legions forged not from honor but necessity. They saw the Emperor, not as God, not as tyrant, but as a man carrying the impossible burden of a future already stained with failure. And then they saw something else, something hidden for millennia, that in the darkest hour before his ascension to the Golden Throne, he had whispered a final command, a contingency meant only for those who might one day question. If faith becomes chains, break them, so humanity might stand free. The vision vanished with a psychic snap. Silence crushed the battlefield. And the chaplain collapsed to his knees, armor smoking from within. For a long moment, nothing moved. The surviving soldiers stood in a ring of stunned disbelief around the man who had once been marked coward. The tech priests murmured conflicting binary prayers. Even the Titan seemed to hesitate, shifting its great weight as though acknowledging what had been revealed. The refusing soldier felt his pulse steady, felt a strange calm settle over him, as if the galaxy's noise had finally receded. But clarity carried its own terror. If the Emperor had foreseen their enslavement to doctrine, if he had entrusted the possibility of defiance to mortal hands, then everything the Imperium preached was a half-truth sharpened into a blade. The Psyker girl approached him, eyes still glowing faintly. "They will kill you for knowing," she whispered. "They will kill all of us," he did not answer, because another sound was rising, one he recognized all too well. Dropships, Imperial, inquisitorial markings black against the burning clouds. Reinforcements, but not the kind that saved survivors. The soldiers exchanged glances filled with dread, understanding the arrival meant culling, not rescue. The Titan stepped back, as if refusing to stand between humanity and its own cruelty. The refusing soldier felt a hand grip his vambrace. The captain, blood staining the edges of his armor. "You hear me?" He rasped. "We never saw anything. We hold the line. We die clean." But the soldier only shook his head, feeling the Emperor's forgotten words burn like coals in his mind. "We die," he murmured, "for something true." The captain recoiled as if struck, but the Psyker girl nodded as though she had been waiting for those words her entire life. The gunship doors slammed open overhead. Dozens of stormtroopers rappelled downward in perfect formation, visors blank and merciless. The Inquisitor descended last, robes fluttering like carrion wings, servo skulls circling her with recording lenses ready to capture heresy in every breath. She surveyed the ruined battlefield, the Titan, the psychic scarring, the kneeling chaplain, and then her gaze settled on the refusing soldier. Not with fury, with recognition. "So," she said softly, "another has awakened." The soldiers around him tightened their grips on their rifles, glancing at him with fear they tried to mask as loyalty. The Psyker girl braced herself, power gathering, veins glowing faintly beneath her skin. And the Inquisitor drew a small, ancient device from her belt, an object older than the Imperium. Its surface shimmered with forbidden sigils. The Titan's machine spirit roared in warning. The Psyker girl froze, terror widening her eyes. Even the chaplain found his voice again. "You would unseal that?" But the Inquisitor did not answer. She activated the device, and a pulse rippled outward, silent, colorless, yet felt in the marrow of every living being. The refusing soldier gasped as memories not his own flooded his mind. Marching in golden halls, kneeling before a throne that still held a living will, hearing the Emperor whisper the contingency command not once, but 1,000 times to 1,000 souls scattered across time, souls like his. Souls who would feel the truth awaken only when the galaxy neared the precipice of collapse. The Inquisitor stepped closer, her voice barely above a breath. "You are one of them." The Psyker girl screamed as the sky cracked again, not with visions, but with something real. Warped tears blossomed like open wounds. Demonic whispers slithered into the wind. The world trembled as if its foundations were being eaten from below. The Inquisitor's stormtroopers took aim at the refusing soldier, but she lifted a hand to halt them. "His choice," she said, "determines whether this world lives or dies." The soldier stared at the warp fissures, at the Titan bracing for impact, at the legionnaires who had once called him coward, He felt the Emperor's last command echo like a drumbeat. Break the chains. And for the first time, he understood its meaning, not rebellion, not heresy, but clarity. Humanity could not survive if it could not choose. He turned to the Inquisitor, voice steady despite the universe shuddering around him. Then what must I do? Her expression shifted relief, fear, hope, all at once. She extended the ancient device toward him. You must remember what the Imperium has forgotten. The Psyker girl cried out as another warped tear split the sky. The Titan raised its cannons. Stormtroopers braced. Soldiers prayed. And the refusing soldier reached out his hand, the device burning like a miniature sun. As his fingers closed around it, a surge of impossible light erupted outward, drowning the battlefield in white fire. For one heartbeat, everything fell silent. For one heartbeat, all truth felt within reach. And then, the light snapped shut, and something in the universe changed forever. The light receded slowly, as if reluctant to abandon the world it had briefly redeemed. And when it finally faded, the battlefield lay bathed in an eerie, ash-gray calm. The warp fissures had sealed, leaving only thin scars trembling with residual energy. Broken weapons lay half-buried in soot. Helmets had rolled into craters filled with rainwater that reflected a sky no longer screaming. In the center of it all stood the soldier, no longer refusing, no longer defying, no longer afraid, only breathing, as though he had returned from a place beyond flesh and memory. Around him, survivors stirred from stunned silence, moving like pilgrims waking inside a ruined temple. Even the Titan knelt, machine spirit groaning in a tone that felt like reverence or mourning. None could tell. The air smelled of burnt ozone, but for the first time since the war began, the wind carried no hatred. The Inquisitor lay collapsed beside the ancient device, breathing shallowly but alive. Her stormtroopers rushed to her, but she waved them away, her eyes fixed on the soldier as if trying to confirm he was still the same man she had entrusted with the truth. His armor was cracked, glowing faintly from within as if retaining fragments of the impossible light that had surged through him. He walked slowly toward her, each step heavy with exhaustion and revelation. She attempted to speak, but he knelt and placed a hand upon her gauntlet, communicating more in silence than words ever could. The Psyker girl watched from a distance, trembling not from fear but from the remnants of the vision she had shared with him. Visions of a humanity unshackled, stumbling toward a future it had forgotten it deserved. She wiped tears from her cheeks, unsure if they belonged to her or the countless souls who had brushed her mind. The clouds parted above them, revealing a sky of fractured gold and violet, as if dawn and dusk coexisted in the same breath. Smoke drifted like incense through the shattered spires, giving the world the appearance of a cathedral half-burned, but still standing. Chaplain Arovan rose, leaning heavily on his crozius, its once bright iconography now dimmed. He approached the soldier with a gait that betrayed centuries of conviction rattled in a single moment. When he spoke, his voice cracked like splitting stone. "Tell me," he whispered, "did you see him? Or only what you wanted to see?" The soldier met his gaze, and for a moment, two faiths, one built on doctrine, the other reborn from truth, stared into the depths of each other. The soldier did not answer. The chaplain bowed his head, perhaps in sorrow, perhaps in acceptance, perhaps in surrender. The tech priests wandered the ridge like mourners in a graveyard of steel, analyzing readings they could not comprehend. Their mechadendrites flicked anxiously, relaying strings of binary confusion to one another. The miracle did not compute, yet they recorded it anyway, for denial would serve no function. One of them approached the Titan and laid a trembling hand on its leg plating. "Omnissiah," he whispered in a voice so small it felt human again. The Titan did not answer, but its optics flared warm, acknowledging the prayer not with superiority, but with kinship. Something ancient had touched the machine as well, something that stirred memories buried deeper than circuitry. The tech priest stepped back in awe, realizing that for the first time in his life, Faith and logic occupied the same fragile breath. The wind carried the first hints of incoming Imperial reinforcements, distant thunder, metallic, methodical. Not inquisitorial hunters, but relief forces. Their banners glinted faintly beneath the bruised horizon. A few soldiers looked to the refusing man with apprehension, fear that the truth he now carried might doom them once the new arrivals witnessed the aftermath. Yet when the soldier turned to face them, the fear softened. He stood not as a rebel nor a prophet, but as something simpler and much harder to kill. A human being who had chosen conscience over command. The captain limped toward him, clutching his side, and managed a weary nod. "You did what none of us could," he murmured. "Not because you were braver, because you were free." The soldier did not know how to respond, and in the end, silence felt truer than gratitude. Night fell slowly, draping the ruins in a cloak of blue-black serenity. Fires crackled in distant craters where ammunition stores still burned, but the flames seemed quieter, less desperate. The Psyker girl sat beside the soldier, staring at the stars reappearing overhead cold, eternal witnesses to mankind's unending struggle. "Do you think he knows?" she asked softly. "What happened here?" The soldier gazed upward, feeling the faint warmth of the device's lingering resonance deep in his chest. "I think," he began, then hesitated, searching for a truth that didn't fracture under its own weight. "I think he has always known. The question is whether we are ready to know ourselves." The girl nodded, though she did not fully understand. Few ever would. The Inquisitor regained enough strength to stand, leaning heavily on her staff. She approached the soldier once more. Her authority returned, but her certainty fractured. "History will not accept this," she warned gently. "The Imperium survives by the shape of its stories, not by their truth." The soldier regarded her, sensing the burden she carried, one far heavier than her power suggested. "Then perhaps," he replied, "it is time the stories changed." She flinched, not in anger but in recognition of the impossible path ahead. She saw the cost of such a shift, the blood it would demand, the wars it would ignite. And yet she also saw the flicker of hope humanity had not dared to feel for millennia. She bowed her head, an Inquisitor bowing to a common soldier, as if acknowledging the end of one age and the quiet birth of another. At dawn, the reinforcements arrived in disciplined formation, their transports thundering across the plains. Officers demanded explanations, medicae scrambled to treat survivors, and scribes documented every detail with frantic devotion. Yet when they approached the soldier at the center of the ruins, they paused, sensing the gravity that clung to him like a mantle. The captain stepped forward, shielding him with a single sentence. "He saved this world." It was neither lie nor truth, but something suspended between them. The reinforcements accepted it, not because they understood, but because the alternative hummed with danger they could not name. The Inquisitor said nothing, her silence a fragile sanctuary. As the sun climbed, painting the broken world in gold, the soldier returned to the spot where the device had triggered the transformation. He knelt, touching the scorched earth, feeling the echo of what had passed. It was quiet now, but the quiet held meaning like the stillness inside a cathedral after the last prayer fades. The Psyker girl joined him, placing a hand on the ground beside his. "Will they come for you?" she asked. He nodded. "Yes. Will you run?" He shook his head. "No." She looked at him with a mixture of sorrow and admiration, understanding that some fates were not escapes, but choices. The final evacuation began hours later. Soldiers filed into transports, limping, supporting one another, carrying both wounds and something far more delicate memory. The Titan turned away last, walking toward the mountains with thunderous footsteps that felt like a farewell. The refusing soldier lingered at the landing zone's edge, watching the horizon as though expecting someone. The chaplain approached quietly, removing his helm, revealing a face lined by a lifetime of devotion. "Perhaps," he whispered, "faith is not obedience. Perhaps it is the courage to face the truth and remain human." He placed a worn purity seal in the soldier's hand. "If they write of this, let them write it as hope." As the transports lifted into the sky, leaving the world smoldering beneath them, the soldier closed his eyes. The wind brushed past him, carrying the faint echo of ancient words. Whether memory or miracle, he could not say. He wondered, not for the first time, whether humanity was meant to survive by faith, or by the courage to question it. And if survival demanded both, who among them would bear that burden? In the end, the world fell silent. A single soldier stood in the ruins, neither hero nor heretic, but the quiet voice of a truth too long forgotten. And as the sky dimmed once more, a final question lingered like incense in the cold air. What becomes of an empire when even its smallest soul begins to awaken? And what becomes of humanity if it refuses to kneel? If you felt the weight of this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and leave your thoughts in the comments.